Hey, this is Zach from We're Not Marketers, and today's episode is brought to you by Punchy from Emma Stratton. Your market is noisy with technical jargon and buzzwords. When everyone's using the same tired lingo, how do you cut through the noise? You get Punchy. Make It Punchy is the practical guide to creating effective messaging for B2B tech products, from writing to implementation. Packed with frameworks and examples, Make It Punchy shows you how to get real with buyers about why your technology matters to them, so you can win hearts, minds, and markets. Pre-order now on Amazon in the US, UK, and Canada. Available everywhere now. I've got my copy. Get yours today. We are a podcast for product marketers and B2B SaaS who feel misunderstood of what they do.
From someone who truly gets what you do and
basically help you feel less like a misfit, being unignorable in your role.
Yo, everyone, what's up? Welcome to season 3 of We're Not Marketers. We always got to come with a fire guest, but we've got some extra heat for you today. And as always, before we jump into the big guest, we're going to do a little introduction of the 3 misfits. So kicking it off, it's Eric Holland, still the Franken marketer of the group. From a camera angle, I'm going to slide it over to you, Zach.
Hey, this is Zach Roberts here, Sales Wild Boar. I'm going to pass it over to Gab.
Gab Bugeaud, I feel like, did we get a promotion or something? I feel like it's not Sales Deck Intern, it's Sales Deck Associate.
Yeah, you're right.
Sales Deck Associate.
We've all been promoted. I think I'm the Franken manager.
Yeah, we self-promoted ourselves.
Yeah.
Congratulations. We're on a 2-season cycle.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to get the name badges changed so we don't forget this. But yeah, like I said, we got a fire guest. I don't think we need a huge intro. But if you don't know, Jarod Greene, we've got him in the house today.
All right, I'll do my best. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I've been excited. I'm happy to be here, excited to be here. CMO of Vivint. And Vivint's a platform for sales engineers. That's not important, but it is a role that I've pursued for quite a while. Came up through the PMM ranks from a very unconventional path. I was a research analyst and director at Gartner for a long period of time. Had no idea what product marketing was 10 years ago. Had no idea what it was, didn't know it existed, didn't know what the function was, just wanted to be in marketing. And someone said, you should be a product marketer. And I said, I don't know what that is, but all right, cool, let's cook. And then it's been B2B SaaS ever since. It's been Sharewell Software, it's been Aptio, it's been HighSpot, work with RevRoom, and now CMO of Vivint. So from 10 years not knowing what the function was to a CMO, not too shabby, but love, appreciate, and have so much respect for the PMM discipline, which makes me excited to be with y'all today.
And a quick clarifying question here, Gerard. You were a school teacher back in the day too, right?
Yeah, I was a substitute math teacher for about 2 years. I thought I wanted to be a teacher coming out of school, coming out of college. I was a liberal arts major right after the 9/11 attacks. It was like the economy wasn't great and getting a job was tough, but you'd be a substitute teacher and make $50 a day and work 8 to 2, like, all right, cool. I had the rest of the day. So I went to a public school, said, I'll be a sub, call me when you need me. I went in one day and they said, hey, don't leave. Just stick around, just hang out. And I never left. I never had to wait by the phone to see what teacher was sick. I was a permanent sub at one school for 2 years. I taught 7th grade math, thought that was what I was going to go do. I made a bet with my wife, won the bet, and I moved on. But yeah, that was the path, man. I taught 7th grade, 12, 13-year-olds for about 2 years, which gave me a lot of patience, taught me a lot of patience.
What's easier, teaching 7th grade math to preteens or leading a marketing strategy at a B2B organization?
Oh God, the former. Yeah, it is. It is. You got a lot more control over 12, 13-year-olds. You do what I say, or I give you a bad grade and mess up your life to an extent. Adults, a little tricky, but yeah, it's fun to mold and shape young minds though, at the same time. Like you look at the next generation, it's incredible to see what they've done. And now I'm old enough to see like these kids have grown up. They still remember. It's super weird, but I would take the 12, 13-year-old teaching element all day and night. And if I ever hit big in SaaS, I'm going back to teaching in a heartbeat. I'm teaching high school history somewhere.
High school history?
Oh, yeah.
That's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Super cool goal.
Absolutely.
Especially now that you've been in marketing for so long that you realize a lot of that math we don't actually use now that we're adults. So
No, especially with GTP, right? Especially with generative. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Make this easy. Make it simple. I'm not figuring this out right now.
Absolutely. Well, Gents, we always have one very important question that sticks around throughout every episode, and we always let Gab do the honors. So, Mr. Gab, you want to set us off with the biggest question of the episode?
For sure, for sure. Jarod, are product marketers actually marketers? Why or why not?
So I thought a lot about this. And what I think is really interesting is that you guys are, and I consider myself a product marketer at the core, we're not marketers because we're so much more. We're whole magicians, guys. We get to be everywhere at once. And the way I frame product marketing that people don't understand it is you get to be the thing in the room that you have to be the most when that's needed. So here's what I mean by that. When you're in the room with salespeople who need to understand the product, you're magically a product person. Like, you get the use cases, the features, the capabilities, you get that, and you can make it make sense to a salesperson. Flip that over when you're in the room with a product person. You're now representing the field. What's going on in sales? Like, what's their problem? Why can't they ship this? This product's awesome. And so you get to be this weird chameleon. When you're in the room with customer success, you represent both to a certain extent. And when you're in with other marketers, you represent everyone else. So you're in this cool little nexus of just magician, wizard, sorcerer who can speak different languages when necessary. And then what I think is most incredible is that we get to make things make sense. We had a motto when I was at High Spot. It's called Make It Make Sense. That was like our whole mission. Mims. There's a rapper named Mims, by the way, that This Is Why I'm Hot, if you want to reference it.
Yes.
But Mims, yeah, Mims. But we would say that, like, Mims, just make it make sense. And you make it make sense to the audience that needs it. And guess what the ultimate audience is? The people you're trying to sell stuff to. So when people are trying to understand, well, what's your product? What's it do? How does it create value? Why should I buy it? Why should I pay this much for it? You get to represent the product team, marketing team, the sales team, the customer success team in a way that only you can. So sure, you're in the marketing realm, but you get to add those other skill sets to be a whole ass other thing, which is this incredible magician, which is why I love the discipline and the function so much.
I had a clarifying question for you. Is that season 1, we had Tamar Grominski come on, and she said that PMs should not be CMOs. So as someone who is a CMO today, like, how can you attribute the skills that you've developed as a PM to what you're seeing today from the season?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that take at all. And the thing I tell people about the kind of CMO I am today is I'm very transparent with my leadership team and my boss about what I bring to the table. Where you think about companies at different stages of their own life cycle, companies early stage don't need a full-blown CMO. They need a product marketer. They don't know it yet, but a lot of the core raw materials of getting product market fit sound exactly like our role, doesn't it? You think about it, like an early stage company needs to establish product market fit. It's the first 10, the first 15, the first 25, the first 50 million to create a category or to disrupt the category. And so much of what you need there is what we do, guys: position, message, launch, compete, enablement. Those are the things that are just core to what a marketing leader brings to the table at an early stage company. Now, if I were at a later stage company, no, I'm probably not the CMO. I'm probably not the head of marketing. You probably have a different job to do on brand and scaling demand and making customers happy in a different way. But for where I am and for what I do and for what my company needs me to do, I believe I'm uniquely qualified to run the show. And when we get to a point where we're 100, 200, 300 million, I'm probably not the person. And that's all right. Like, I don't lose sleep or cycles over that. But I think what a company needs at the early stages are the very core raw materials that only a product marketer can do.
I love that. And follow-up question on that, since it's about, like you said, you're uniquely qualified to do your job. I'm a PMM, I'm listening to the pod. What signal should I take a look into, like my background, my unique skills, my wanted career path, to understand if being a CMO is a good end goal or if I should look somewhere else, basically?
Yeah, I think if you're a PMM who's asking the question, should I step into the CMO arena? I think you got to look again. Look at what kind of CMO the company you're looking to step into requires of you. I'm very transparent in the fact that if it was a raw core demand skill set, I'm probably looking for someone else to run that function, or at least to be really good at it. and I can lead them with a vision. I can lead them with guidance. So I think the skill sets you're looking there towards are, can you lead? Can people follow? Are you empathetic? Are you a mentor leader? Can you go back to, again, making things make sense? Can you provide a solid context for your audiences? And I think the most key piece, and product marketers probably do this in their sleep, but don't realize it, can you manage up? Can you manage down? Can you manage sideways? We're really good at managing, I think, sideways because we know how to grab people and stakeholders and get them rallied around a cause. If we're fortunate enough to be leaders and product marketers, we have a team and it's getting everybody to follow the mission. Where I think most people struggle is managing up. How do you make it make sense to people who have an understanding of what they think product marketing is and should be doing? How do you connect the dots on here's what product marketing is at this company right now. Here's what we do. Here's how our outputs correlate to outcomes. And if you're good at those things, you could step into a CMO or head of marketing role tomorrow. But it's just very important you understand that if you lack depth or skills or knowledge on the other core pillars of marketing, you better be a good leader. So I was saying that if you are a strong leader, if you can compel people to follow, if you can get people to see and execute on a vision, you can lead an entire marketing team. But you need to supplement it with the things you aren't great at quickly, because ultimately your standards of measurement are going to revolve around things that you might not be keen on delivering. This is like scalable pipeline. This is a repeatable effort to bring people in the tent. So if you're thinking about it, just know that you are more capable than you may think you are, particularly if you have those soft skills I mentioned earlier.
Was there any point in time or like event that was like, yeah, I want to be a CMO for you personally that made you want to make that jump? Or was it just another title change for you?
I think I've had a few. I sat in the chair for a little bit. So I was at a different company, and there was a C-level change. The CMO was no longer with the business. They asked me to take the reins while they looked for a new CMO, which is always fun because it's like, oh, do the job, but if you do it really well, go back. And if you don't do it well at all, it's fine because we're bringing someone else in. I sat in that chair for about 6 months.
Teaching days. No, I said substitute CMO. They brought you in and said don't leave.
Yeah, I was a permanent substitute CMO. I never thought about that, but that's what it was, man. They gave me the remit. They gave me some of the control and said, hey, man, go after it, hold the fort down, deliver, but we're probably going to bring someone else in who knows a little bit more about demand than you. And I think that was the moment. I'm super competitive. I know you guys know me, but I'm super competitive. You want to get me to do something, tell me I can't do it, and then I'm just fired up. So that's what it came. That was the moment I said, you know what? I think there's more to being a CMO than just command of demand gen. And having done the role for the 6 months I had done it, and it was time to go. It was time to go do something different. So I think that was one of the key moments I had where it was just like, I can do this. I can lead the function. I can compel people to follow. I can tell our story at scale. I can enable stakeholders to get what we're trying to do. And I was having a blast doing it. So I think that was the moment when someone said, you can, we'll let you do it, but we're probably going to take it away in a few months. It was the moment when my competitive fire kicked in.
So a clarifying question to that piece for a lot of PMMs who want to grow into that next level or make that lateral movement. One challenge they see in the interview space is that, hey, Gerard, we love the confidence, but you haven't done this before. What is the proof point? Like, how did you get to that point in time where, going back to the demand gen piece, where I'm going to learn it and I'm going to show you I can do it to get to that stage?
Well, I think you got to remember too, just doing it doesn't necessarily having mastery of the function doesn't constitute your ability to execute it at scale. And what I mean by that is like, I saw a great LinkedIn post a couple weeks ago, and it was basically like, here's everything people expect the CMO to do. And there are 0 people that are masters in every single line item on this list, right? And the key is to be good enough and dangerous enough at what you can do, have really deep kind of capabilities in just a few areas. And then the ability to manage, the ability to influence, the ability to guide, the ability to cultivate talent for the others. And for so long, I was caught in that cycle of, well, most marketing team pillars there's a product marketing pillar that I know really well. There's a demand pillar that I work with closely. There's probably a customer marketing pillar that I partner with on the product side. There's probably a partner ecosystem pillar that I work with. bigger the organization gets, you might see things like brand and you might see things like enablement. You work with all these teams, you pick up these skill sets, you pick up these disciplines, but you don't have to be a master at all of them to be a CMO or a head of marketing. And I think that's where a lot of PMMs get tripped up. I have to be great at all to succeed in the role. And I'm here to tell you, you don't. You need to be knowledgeable of these functions, and you need to be really good at people and soft skill management, because there are people who know more than you in those other categories. Probably people that know more than you in product marketing, if you're honest about it. And it's your ability to lead, to guide, to shape, to get everyone aligned around a vision and a mission to go be executed, than it is about subject matter expertise of all of the pillars.
I vibe with that
Do you feel
hard.
that
I was just gonna say, keep letting him cook, man. That I'm vibing with that. And actually, you definitely don't know this, and our listeners probably don't know this, but when I was probably like 7 months into a sales enablement role in B2B, I was able to watch you and a bunch of other great speakers at the PMA Summit in Boston. In that time period where I was like, how do I get into a product marketing role? Because at the time they're like, you haven't been in B2B SaaS for 5 years, so we won't let you take on the other product marketing responsibilities. But you can do sales enablement. You can do competitive intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And I watched you up there and I was like, dude, look at his journey. It's not like this straight path.
Yeah, I remember.
I was just like, yeah, dude, that guy, that's the confidence. Like, he's exuding confidence. He didn't get here because he thought he couldn't do this. He identified where he's really strong, and also identified what he's passionate about, and that's projected him this way. So I just want to commend you on that. It's definitely helped me, I think, get to the point where we can have you on a podcast conversation. And I think for any of the listeners, like, that's just have that confidence in yourself. And
I appreciate that. And I think finally about that PMA, because I don't know if I ever told people this story. My AV, I shipped the wrong presentation for that event. The irony was, like, I was at HighSpot at the time, so I didn't manage my own content, but I had 2 versions of the same PowerPoint. One was like my draft version, and it was local, it's a local file, and that's why I put in all my notes in my scratch pad. And then there was like you guys have all done it, final V30 final. Well, I shipped PMA the wrong copy, and so when I got on stage and I'm going on my notes, I'm like, this is the draft. This is bad. Ooh. But I had just stopped presenting and just started talking and filling space and going over my content as if there were no slides at all. And I talked to my field marketer after. She's like, I couldn't tell once she got going. So that was one of my more embarrassing moments of, I didn't do the full check prep work to make sure it was the right presentation, but still made an impact just the same. So thanks for sharing that. But that was a scary little moment right there.
Yeah, man, it was
behind the scenes
one of the most impactful presentations. And I'm not just going to dig into a random presentation without getting some context. So speaking of context, no, that was no pun intended. I walked right into that one, everybody. The presentation was called Content with Context. And so I think, because it's one of my favorite presentations, can you give our audience a little bit what that meant and what it means for them, particularly around as they build content for their audiences?
Totally. Yeah. So this is where the math teacher and the nerd and the storytelling all come together. A couple cycles way before HighSpot. And it's probably like my HighSpot interview. I really started to explore the relationship between content and context. And what I learned and saw and delivered over and over again was, we could sit down, guys, and create 100 pieces of content, right? And we could feel good about it. It could be perfectly worded, elegant, beautiful. We will be so proud of ourselves. And what happens in the enablement side of it is we take that content and we put all these like tags on it, and we make it easy to find, and we make it easy to read. And it's all beautiful. We are so proud that we put that content there. What happens when you give it to a salesperson, inevitably, is they go, when am I supposed to use this? How am I supposed to use this? Who am I supposed to use this with? Do I use this in competitive motions? Do I use it in greenfield? Like what? How do I use it? It's great. I love it. But I have meetings with people. Do I send it before the meeting? Do I send it after the meeting? So there's all these like contextual kind of things that come up when they're absent. That's why your salespeople don't use your content, because they don't know when, they don't know how. It's not that they don't know how to find it. It's not that it's not good. It's not that it's not relevant. They just don't have the context on when and how to share it. And so the equation was, if you have content without context, you end up with chaos. There's also an alliteration play here. But content without context equals chaos. And everyone's frustrated. You're frustrated because you spent time on this content. You're frustrated that they're not using it. They're frustrated because they can't find this golden nugget of a snippet that's in asset number 81. And it's so easy to find for you, but impossible for them. So we spent $3 billion on sales enablement tools to help people find the right piece of content at the right time. And they still can't freaking do it. Different soapbox, different day. But that was the equation. And what we want to flip it to is content with context equals confidence. So if I know exactly when and how and with whom to use this content with, I'm confident. And what I found is that confidence is the single most important indicator of whether or not a sales rep's going to be successful. Don't we buy things from confident people? Would you walk into any situation and someone's, maybe you should buy this. I think it would help you if you bought. You're not doing it. I want a salesperson that's going to say, this thing is going to help you solve this problem, this challenge, this opportunity. It's going to help you do this and this and this. And here's the proof. And here's the validation. And here's the resource. Here's the demo. Here's what you send to your CFO who's going to ask you for a business case. Here's what you need to send to your peer who's going to ask you how it integrates. Here's what you send to your team that asks you how to use it. I need those sellers. And I promise you, like, the sellers that can connect the dots, empower buying committees, get people to see that vision through that amazing content product marketers create, like, those are the ones that win. And so we just wanted to have fun with that equation. Content without context equals chaos. Everyone's frustrated and upset. But content plus context equals confidence, where your sellers are happy, you're happy, customers happy, and everybody wins. So that was just a breakdown of the equation. I've been using that for a long time now, and it always makes sense to the audience that's identifying with the challenges at hand.
Clarifying question with that, because one piece that we typically hear from product marketers is that, Gerard, I'm strapped for time. I have to launch this product. I want to prioritize my time more towards distribution, packaging. So from what you're saying here, I'm curious, like, the reality of product marketing today is, like, how should they be prioritizing their time to maximize the impact, assuming that you are in a B2B sales-led organization launching a product?
Yeah, sure. More C words coming your way. So one of the things I find is that a lot of times co-creation and collaboration associated with the content goes a long way. Here's what I mean by that. For folks who are struggling to say, I want to focus on distribution and packaging the content, that's great. Have you sat down with the best seller or the best sales people in your organization to think about how they think about this thing? Because what you find a lot of times is they can be they can be a conduit to helping you get that content out to the world. The best opportunities and the best rollouts of content I've ever had are ones where I could just step back and let my salesperson do it. They can say, hey man, like, this breakdown, this competitive breakdown is the thing I've used to help me displace vendor X, or this mutual action plan is the thing that got me my second meeting. Like, it's those moments where I'm like, let those people do the work for you. And one of the secrets was always the co-creation of the materials. I think a lot of times product marketers, we want to do the whole thing, soup to nuts, end to end. But I promise you, if you leave a little bit of room and let some of your best sellers just put the final piece on it or give you some feedback early enough in the cycle where it's not slowing you down, they not only become users of the thing, but they become champions of it. So I think there's a bunch of little hacks along the way that allow you to get time back, that let you paint context without being marred in metadata tagging of the assets, or putting it in the right folders for the right teams, or making sure you have the SMB version and the enterprise version and the strategic. You could take a lot of cycles away by just making sure that as you package it, as you distribute, you bring the audience that needs to use it along for the ride with you, and that'll save. And that's one of probably 6 or 7 different kind of hacks or techniques I've used along the way to make sure the stuff we produce is not only impactful, but shared and effective.
What would be your best tips if I'm a PMM and I'm trying to co-create with sales, but I don't necessarily have the influence or just even the relationship to begin with?
You're behind the 8 ball if you don't have it, and that's okay. I think it starts with extending that branch early. It might not be with the top salesperson, that initial relationship. That top salesperson's busy. They got a lot to do. They don't want to get involved in marketing. That's fine. Finding your middle of the pack seller, finding your brand new seller who just joined the organization, who is eager to make a mark, is just as effective sometimes. Finding the sales leader of a team that is struggling can be super effective. So you might not get everyone you want in the cabal, but it starts with just a single act of, hey, I have an idea, or hey, I'm wondering what you guys are seeing from your end. If you're using any of the conversational intelligence tools, the Gong, the Wingmans, the et ceteras, your ability to kind of sense and listen and say, "Ooh, that was a really interesting way you landed this. Can we set up a coffee chat to talk about that piece of it?" I think sales folks are more willing to lean in when those are the conversations versus, "Hey, can you review this asset that I wrote? It's only 12 pages." Like that's a different ask. And so I think if you don't have relationship with sales as a PMM, that's probably a signal that you need to start building some of those bridges. And then once you do, just be ready for the, hey, marketing, or hey, product marketing. They always call you marketing. They don't distinguish product versus anything else. But hey, marketing, what will really help me in the field is this and this. And really take those requests in earnest. They may be annoying at times. If I have one more person ask me to make a deck pretty, I'm going to punch a hole in the wall. It may be annoying to start with, but I promise you, once you start to build those inroads that say, I'm listening, I hear you, I see things through your perspective, and trust that my wider perspective of product roadmap, competitive landscape, customer usage and adoption can be incorporated into what, so we build something cool together, you will start to build those wins. And as you build those step by step, you'll accumulate this scoreboard of favors that people will owe you over time, that you just get to spend the rest of your tenure cashing in. So I'd advise anyone who says, well, I don't have a relationship with sales to do that with, to start to build the relationship with sales with small, quick, tangible wins that start with 10 or 15-minute coffee chats.
I love that. And I just want to tag into that too. Use that context bit that he was talking about. Don't just extend the hand with an ask without delivering that proper set of context. That'll make that bridge a lot easier. I won't give this specific example, but I just had this over the last 2 months in building out a pretty big project. If you saw the demo arena, so doing that exact playbook is why I avoided a lot of bumps and bruises that I know would have been just an absolute bloodbath if I didn't bring everyone along with that journey and make sure I had the right people giving the right input.
For sure. You want them to be co-sponsors, co-champions of the stuff. At the end of the day, like I had to swallow a lot of pride. Like I stick my chest out. Like I'm pretty confident. And I had to learn to just say, hey, it ain't about you, dog. It's really not. If you want to get this thing across the line, pull back. Look what we created. Look what we did. Look what she did. Look what he did. It doesn't matter whose name's on it. At the end of the day, what do we want? We want our stuff used. We want our stuff to drive impact. And so take your name off it. Like we know you did it. And it's hard because product marketing is behind this weird 8 ball of, I don't know what you guys do, but the most tangible physical thing I see is content. So I'm going to measure you by your content production. And so what do? We go into content production mode and we produce, but guys, without context, right? And so then it doesn't get used, it doesn't connect the dots, and now everybody's frustrated. So I think a lot of it too is just taking a little of the edge off, starting to co-create. And I promise people will bring you along and bring you into spaces when they know that the intentions are to help the broader group and not just be, look what we did. I learned that the hard way. I punched a lot of holes in a lot of walls, and I just don't want people to do that as they advance their product marketing careers.
So I don't know if you know this, but you are our second, either current or former Gartner analyst that we've had. And so a topic that's near and dear to my heart, I know it's at least near and dear to one of our other misfits, is that whole topic of research, and something that I have personally struggled with, just making sure that was the important part of almost any big project is, have we done the proper steps of research? So I'm curious, like plain and simple, what is your opinion on research as it involves not just the product marketing function. But as you're running everything in marketing, how important do you put that weight on research?
It's everything. It's life itself. I was a sociology major. I had to take statistics 3 times to understand it. But what sociology taught me was you can look at a macro anything and double click in it to understand behavior, to understand why people do what they do, why society moves it the way it does, why it makes irrational decisions. There's a whole conversation we have about like behavioral economics, but one of the things it taught me was like people don't always do what they say they're going to do. And a lot of the research you're doing has to be a level of primary, like you go do it yourself. You go talk to X amount of customers. You go talk to 10 people who didn't buy your product. You go talk to 20 people who evaluated your product and stopped. There's primary research you have to do. There's secondary research you got to lean on, which is someone else has done the research and you get to draft off of that and use that to your advantage. And I think there's a mix, a healthy mix that you need to incorporate because a lot of times we do research from like very self-serving perspectives. So I talk to 10 people that think and look and behave just like me, and this is what they said. And so this is the way the world works. Not so much. Take the bias off of it. Why it's near and dear to my heart, like research is a function, it teaches you things you don't know because we don't know everything. And I think back to a world of context gathering and context setting, the research process is where a lot of fights get squashed. If I have objective research, if I have the data, if I have the insights to inform a decision, I can use that and I can take a lot of the emotion out of the room with just that objective point of view. And if you don't have that, if you don't have those insights, everything gets harder and it becomes a personality contest. It becomes a cult of personality contest. It becomes a loudest voice in the room or most senior person in the room gets to make a decision. Where I love the concept of primary and secondary research for product marketers is that going back to where I said product marketers sit in that nexus of product people need us, marketing people need us, sales people need us, customers need us, customer support people need us. We get to gather a ton of insights. We get to gather a ton of data and we get to put that together in a way that lets all of those groups make decisions. And so I think some level of analytics, some level of how you contextualize data and turn those into insights has to be a part of your skill set. And even if you don't have it, knowing that you need it requires you to either find the people in the business who have it and can help you or something you need to go develop. But it is a very critical part of everything you do as a product marketer. You can't do effective messaging and positioning without a context of what else is out there. You can't do a launch unless you understand that these are features and capabilities that people will actually use. And that's in your partnership with product. You can't start to understand what the delta of adoption looks like after a feature's been released if you don't understand the current level of usage and adoption. So research and context gathering is everything you do as a product marketer, which is, again, that's why I love that discipline so much, because you learn so much, you see so many things. And a lot of times the magic moments, guys, are when your hypotheses get invalidated. I thought this is what was going to happen. What I learned is that this is what's happening. And the faster you figure that out, the faster you build to meet those needs. And you're doing something that like your competitors can't, or you're doing something that the market needs. And now you're adding more value to your business. That shit is fun. It is a lot of fun to go do. And I get personal joy from it and would encourage everybody to make research and analysis, and insight gathering a core capability in your skill set.
It fuels everything else. And what I like about it is sometimes, as you said, there's like inefficient messaging and positioning. The key to that is to just remove the committee altogether. Hey, let's trust data. Mm-hmm. So it's not the loudest voice in the room, and it's not just who's actually the manager and who has more like influence throughout that decision.
Totally. And it's got to be objective data, right? Not just like I talk to these people or I talk to these customers. I have data from a wide range. I have a large sample size that informs this point of view. And that takes away a lot of the, yeah, but you didn't talk to people in this industry, or you didn't talk to the, yes, I did. This is what they said. So I think that's the most important piece of it, is making sure that the research and the insights are objective. We can agree upon the methods. So when I come back to you and tell you something that might invalidate what you think, we don't have to get into a fight. This is what the data says. We trust it. Let's use it and move forward.
So if we were ever on Gerard's team here and he asked us how many customers we spoke to validate our point of view. We can't say just 2 customers.
I wish you would. I wish you would.
I don't know if you guys thought that. He dropped a bar.
Yeah.
Research will stop all fights. I'm like, damn.
It does. Well, it does. And again, get good at finding it. One of the hacks, guys, that I found, like a great cheat code that I think we've all come to terms with, like generative AI, is like a big time save for me is I was a Gartner analyst for 4 years. I wrote strategic planning assumptions that said, hey, by this year, this percent of this audience will be doing it. I wrote those. I wrote magic quadrants. I've done a lot of the work. As B2B marketers, we lean on those stats, don't we? Don't we want to find the Gartner stats that say, hey, by this time frame, this thing is going to happen. So it validates what we say. So Gartner said it. So Forrester said it. So get behind it. GTP, Gemini, those things can go find those quotes and those stats faster than ever. And one of my high spot tasks, we put together, we called it the Book of Insights. And we wanted to gather 80, 90 statistics that validated our point of view in enablement. And when we wrote those down, it took a while. We really had to go find and hunt. And now you can turn Gen AI on and say, go find statistics, give me the source, give me the year, give me the day, who said it, give me the context, and you get those things in seconds. And so I just think that we need to do ourselves that service of leveraging what's out there on the secondary side so that we have more time to go do the primary stuff, go get it ourselves.
I very much feel like you do. But at the end of the day, a lot of people look at us at the output, right? What are they churning out? And a lot of times research just isn't viewed as an output in a lot of ways. So especially now that you're leading a big team, but how can you give us some tips on how to create that space, create that time to push back and say, hey, I know you need this XYZ deliverable. How do we blend that in and prioritize with this amount of research that we need to do?
I bake it into the calendar as a core competency so that it's never ad hoc. So I bake into the calendar for this year, for example, where I am at Vivint right now, we will bake in 2 primary research reports annually. So we'll do our state of blank report, state of pre-sales report, whether it's a general report, whether it's on AI, which we've just done, but we will bake into the calendar 2 at least primary research efforts that my business can set their watch to and trust that we're going to get them some gold. And that's just on the primary side. We also have ongoing hooks into our base to get the data we need about them. So if you're working with your product team and they're using product usage tools, that's research right there too, guys. Like people always talk about, there's always got to be something outside. Research could be, how's your monthly active user trend differ by segment, by geo, by industry? That's research right there. And so a lot of times I think you just have to sit down at the beginning of the year and literally bake in the research time and effort like you would anything else. Set your watch to it so you're never one reactive to it. So you can say, we're doing this project in Q1 or we're doing it. And then also allocate budget towards the research. There are some firms out there, I'm sure many of you guys have worked with, like the GLGs of the world or Third Bridge and these other companies that will go out and do the research for you, who will do the data science, who will do the sample gathering, who will do the work. And again, you can use that research and just keep it internal, or you can use it to publish external. So I would say don't get into a space where you're like, this is the 5th thing on my list and I only have time for 4. Make it a priority to do a major research project, if you have the time and scale, at least once a quarter. And diversify your projects that mix what you need to learn from the market versus what you need to learn about your competitors versus what you need to learn from your customer base, what you need to learn about your sales team. We always have a research project on at Vivint, and I was doing the same thing at HighSpot. We would do research projects on like the sales team's level of confidence. We would send a sales survey out called the Sales Confidence Index, and we would do research on how confident they were and where the breakouts start to happen. So just remember, like you have this infinite amount of data you could go get. But when you can process that data and make it insightful, now you're doing real research. So just bake it into your calendar. Don't ever be reactive to it. And make sure that when you produce findings, you're doing it with the audience that can impact the changes you're recommending. Back to the all data stops fights. Create the forums to share the data so you're seen as someone who is insightful, who can frame a context, who's adding value to the organization. Your research projects will set you apart.
clarifying question, and this is going to slightly pivot off of what you mentioned here earlier around AI. Like in organizations today, like there's just this huge like sudden death, like we have to incorporate AI in everything we're doing right now. We have to, like, the race to AI. I see you're chuckling a little bit about this too. And with that, with knowing that context here, is how are you and your team thinking about AI at Vivint? Like, how are you guys incorporating that into your work? And I'm just curious because I feel that's like a burning question with every single team that we've spoken to.
Yeah, I think it starts at the top. We had I guess I can say progressive, but we have a CEO who says this is the future. And if you don't embrace these techniques about how to incorporate it into your job, whether you're an engineer, a marketer, a salesperson, a deployment person, a finance person, if you can't figure out how to use this, you're going to get left behind. And so we got a nice gift a couple months ago where everybody on the business got a license to OpenAI, to GTP, so a business license. So we all have it. We don't run from it. We don't hide from it. We recognize its impact on all of our lives. And we have a channel where we share some of our experiments and some of our learnings. We very much make it a part of the culture. And for me in marketing, as I've looked to hire and grow my team, one of the requirements I'll have for candidates is like, what's your approach to leveraging some of these technologies? Are you going to be a Luddite, put your head in the sand and say, no, it's not the future, I don't agree? Or are you going to lean in to figure out where we can gain some scale, where we can get some leverage? And so we make it a part of the culture here at Vivint to use the technology to further our own efforts. We also subconsciously think about, hey, any new investment has to incorporate some element of what the AI does. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You end up using it because you buy it. But we want to make sure that we're not left behind as everyone else adopts it and uses it. I think the other side of it too is we're teaching ourselves what works and what doesn't. We're teaching ourselves what's practical and what's not. And I've just enjoyed the ride. And I love to see that it can advance and accelerate the things that our product team does, because that's what that means, guys. Product gets out the door faster, right? It's our ability now to build faster things that our market wants and needs and get that to them in ways that we haven't been able to do before. So I'm on the ship. I'm drinking all the Kool-Aid. And I think it behooves us as product marketers to find those use cases that speed us up and try not to reject the notion of it because we feel like it's cheating or taking away some of our core competencies. It will speed you up. It'll make you stronger, faster, and in some cases smarter. Why would you not leverage it in your day-to-day? It'll change a lot of the jobs we have to do. Doesn't change the job to be done. It just changes the way we do it. I think about that with sales engineering a lot. We did a research survey a couple weeks ago, and we asked 524, good sample size, sales engineers and sales engineering leaders, do you think AI can replace your job? And 38% said yes. Okay, interesting. Now, when you double click it and say, well, what do you mean replace? Well, it'll replace the stuff I don't love doing. It'll replace a lot of the filling out this RFP stuff that I don't love doing and free me up to go be with customers more often to show them complex use cases in our product. So it might replace sections of my job that I didn't like to do anyway, that we sometimes needed whole people to do, that will allow me to go do things completely different that really put my skill set on full display. And that's the exciting part of it. It'll change everybody's job to a certain extent that we can tap into the core uniqueness of what it is we do and bring to the table and pretty much automate or AI the rest. That's exciting.
Gerard, pivoting back to what you were talking about earlier about product market fit, combining the rigors of research. You mentioned earlier of if you can come in with that dispassionate analyst point of view, sometimes you might find that what is called product market fit is maybe 5 customers from 7 different industries that is not there.
Right.
So I'm curious from your experience of taking on opportunities like that, can you tell us a time where you might have had to talk with an organization leader and being like, hey, like, this is not quite product market fit. And like, how did you come to that realization to help other leaders to better understand like, what should people not be looking for in product market fit and what they should be double clicking on when they are evaluating if they have proper product market fit?
Great question. A lot of it, again, it goes back to the same content bit, leaving a lot of bias at the door, setting goals and objectives around what it is you want to do with the given audience. You can look at anything, convince yourself that it's working. The hardest thing to do is to recognize that it's not. And without going into specific detail, there have been recent opportunities where you can look at a product or look at a service or look at something you put together that you had a lot of energy and rigor around, and be honest with yourself and say, this ain't it. It ain't it. Like, I got someone across the line. I beat them up enough and harassed them enough to buy it. And 3 months in, I looked at usage. I looked at adoption. I looked at leverage of the features that we sold. I looked at integrations we promised that we didn't deliver. Or I looked at the quality, and it wasn't it. And you got to be honest with yourself in those moments and say, okay, like, what actually won this deal was the cult of personality. What actually won this deal was relationship. What actually won this deal was the salesmanship. You should be gangbusters on the things that have product market fit. It should feel viral. It should feel like wildfire. And if it feels like you're pulling people over and you're working overly hard to convince them, it's probably not it. It's probably not it. And so without having a hard and fast signal, I think it ain't it. And I think you just got to be honest with yourself to start to fail fast and not put yourself in a position to continue putting resources and time into the wrong things. And back to our signals and insights and research, your research and insights will tell you, right? It'll tell you whether or not you're doing the right things. If you ask the right questions through the right lens, you'll be told the answer. You might not like it, but sometimes that's why product marketing as an unbiased actor, not sales, not marketing, not success, not product, is in the best position to seek those answers. And that's what puts us in such a weird spot, guys, because we sometimes have to be the arbiter of bad news. Guys, we talk to 100 customers. This product ain't it. Sorry. Like 100 of 100 said it ain't it. And so we might have to pivot and do something different. Those are tough, awkward conversations. You got to have them just the same.
Gosh, those scare me so much. I'm just going to call Gerard every time I need to have that combo. Hey, Gerard, I got some bad news to spill to my team. Can you do it for me?
It's funny though, sometimes, like, you ever deliver bad news and everyone's just, man, I'm glad you said it, because I was feeling right? Like, I've had those where it's just, man, I'm so nervous to say what I'm about to say. And then someone will slack you and just hit you with the like fist up emoji or the like, yup, glad you did. So I think people know, and sometimes the fear of like retribution, and when you have the data to back it up, what they gonna say now?
Yeah, no fights then.
No fights then. What you gonna say now? I'm telling you, nobody used this thing in 3 weeks. Nobody's logged into this thing. And I've been in those situations. Like, you think about products we produce as product marketers internally. It's our content. When you ship a dud, when you put your heart and soul into that ROI calculator or that battle card or that thing, and nobody touches it, ain't it? So you might have to do something different. The insights will tell you, so don't be afraid to fail fast and make a decision different. I'm in that boat right now. And so, yeah, it's a journey. We got to evolve and adapt.
Dude, wasn't it?
One clarifying piece. What are the questions that you should be asking for product market fit, assuming that I'm listening to this conversation, I'm like, Gerard, I don't even know what the questions to ask.
Yeah, I think the hidden one is like, people always get wrapped around the axle of like the initial consumption of a product. And I think what PLG did in a good way was just shift the model from, well, anyone can buy it. I've removed the barriers to purchase. I've made it simple for you to click, try, and buy. And then in the zero interest rate days, PLG was on fire because I could just buy a workplace app or a departmental app, and people got wrapped around the acquisition things. People have bought this product, but then you start looking at MAUs, DAU, monthly average users, daily active users. You start to look at those things. And then as you launch new features and launch new capabilities and see if that has an impact and you don't see the correlation, those are the things that I think product marketers in particular need to click into, which is usage and adoption as proxies or signals of poor fit. Because the other side of this is that, go back to Gen AI and the speed of development, people can develop new things faster than they could before. And a lot of times what you might have shipped as a departmental app, I'm going meta on this analogy, but a lot of times, say we built a product that's a departmental app, we love it, people have downloaded it, people are paying for it month over month and love it, but they're not using it. And then you come to find out that the big player in the organization has developed a feature that takes yours out and doesn't make yours as compelling. So I think it's the other side of it. You have to look at what people choose to do with their time when they have the product in their hand. They're either using it or they're not. They're either getting value from it or they're not. And it's our job to figure out why. If you're not using it, why not? if you are using it and it's not meeting your requirements, what are those requirements and expectations? And that feeds that research loop that we have to go give to product and give to marketing and give to sales. So I'd say like the sneaky part of product market fit isn't just the acquisition. Oh, everyone bought it. Are they using it every day? Is it a core part of their workflow in their business? If not, it is very likely that thing will churn and never be picked up again.
And end up at a figurative yard sale.
Or you can blame seasonality and just say, oh, they only use that at Christmas time.
Yeah,
Hey,
sure.
you can't. You got,
Sure, but
there's education software. You know that there is a little seasonal blues when they go on summer break. So that is a real thing.
and that's real, and that's
real.
real. And then that's real. And then you could talk yourself into conversations that product marketers need to have about pricing models and packaging and usage based. Because like there's a whole world of things you could go explore when you have those signals. And it just requires you to be agile in those moments. Hey, maybe we don't charge per user per month. Maybe we go consumption based. And we know that there's a big spike in the middle of the year and we'll make our money then. And we know there's a dip in lull in the summer months. How do we remove the impact of that seasonality with a change in our pricing model? People, oh my God, we can't. That's crazy. You can. There's a precedent. Here's how you do it. Here's the research. Here's the insights. Here's the how. There's a whole playbook for everything. And so that's why I love software so much, is that you get so much flexibility and you get to deploy a lot of the kind of skills you might have as just like an agile human or a quick thinker. And it's a blast, man. I don't want to be or do anything else other than teach high school history after I hopefully can make enough money to feed my kids.
Other than finding you on LinkedIn, is there anywhere else you want people to take a look? Do you have any projects you're cooking up you want us to promote for you? Anything else?
Yeah, man.
Our audience
Of
can
course.
know about you, man.
I'm gonna be more active on LinkedIn. My summer's over. Talk about seasonality. I spent the whole summer following my youngest around. Just a shout out to her, Washington State Little League All-Star, who won the district tournament, regional, and state, and went to California to represent the great state of Washington in the Little League World Series. So that was most of my summer from June 1st to July 26th was just following her journey and supporting her dreams. There's a highlight that I'll send you guys of her doing something pretty special. That's over. And the reason I say that is because that a lot of my summer was supporting that, obviously running marketing at Vivint, understanding our current pivot. But now we're back to school, literally. So I will be out a lot more. I have a podcast called The Unexpected Lever that we'll be launching in just a matter of days with some guests. I'm trying to be like you guys. And so I'm excited about that podcast. People can follow. We'll promote on LinkedIn. We have a event on October 2nd called Unexpected. It is our conference. We're doing virtual this year. We expect an upwards of 1,000 pre-sales, sales engineers, solution architect type roles to see not only what we've been up to, but see what their peers and community has been up to. We got some exciting product announcements that we'll be sharing. So that's October 2nd, virtual, free of charge for anybody listening. You can register. I find that on vivint.com or find that through me on LinkedIn. And then we're also doing, guys, a 5-city roadshow. As a CMO, I've always wanted to do a roadshow, get out and touch the people. So we'll be hitting 5 cities right around that unexpected conference timeframe: San Francisco, Austin, Texas, New York, Boston, and my home is Seattle. And so all those things are on vivint.com/unexpected, or you can find that through any channel you see me. So that's what we got cooking between, I'd say, end of September, early October. And then hopefully we're closing the year out strong on a lot of momentum we've built over the last 7 and 8 months. So I'm excited. And so that's what I got cooking. Happy to talk about that more if anyone wants to reach out to me directly. And more importantly, if anybody ever just wants to chop it up on product marketing best practices, product marketing disciplines, how to do things, how to get things done, I'm always a support resource to help provide a little bit of game of what I got. And so feel free to connect on LinkedIn if you haven't already. And I will always grab a cup of coffee with anyone who's trying to understand a discipline a little more.
Amazing.
That's incredible. But the last thing I was going to say, when you said the unexpected 5-city tour, I thought you were just going to leave it at there and just going to be a surprise, just sticking with the brand.
Nah. Oh, unexpected. Just pop-up shows.
Oh, Gerard unexpectedly using
Pop-ups
Minneapolis.
all around all over the city.
Pop-up shows. That's a flex. That's a flex that, going back to how we would do it, yeah, do some research, figure out where people will show up. But if we just did pop-up shows across the country, maybe even the world, let me know what cities we should do. Drop that in a chat somewhere. Let me know where we need to come. And who knows, we might show up.
All right, cool. Then that wraps it up for another episode of We're Not Marketers. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to We're Not Marketers. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, review our podcast, and share this episode with other PMMs. Thanks again, and see you soon.